Trucker Dump, episode 136. Man, we've got a colossal show for you today. Headlined by me sharing the emotional roller coaster I've been on lately as I prepare to change truck driving jobs. Yep, you heard that right. But before that, we've got interesting stuff like Dustin's Trucker Grub segment on some good barbecue, and some long-lost listener feedback from Keith, who talks about hourly pay and has a military analogy to truck training. Scot has comments on the podcast and a question about driver suicide, and Mark sent in an audio clip about why there's so much confrontation between drivers. But of course, we'll start out with a bajillion news stories regarding such things as truck idling regulations, concealed carry in a truck, speed limit changes, updates on the truck parking situation, and what changes our benevolent regulators would like to focus on within the trucking industry. And speaking of things that don't work, we'll also be discussing electric truck technologies, truck tolls, autonomous trucks, 1099 drivers, and trucker protests. And to round out the news and bring it all back around to emotions, we have two stories, one of lost love and money, and the other on found satisfaction in mentoring others. And of course, if you were one of the people who went and filled out the Trucker Dump listener survey, I'll be announcing the winner of the Trucker Dump t-shirt today. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Volvo Trucks. Check them out at volvotrucks.us.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by abouttruckdriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey there, Trucker Dumpers. How the heck are you? Welcome back to another episode of the Trucker Dump Podcast. Thanks, as always, for listening and subscribing. You are subscribed, right? Hey, I gotta admit, though, I am a little freaked out right now because I'm trying a different setup with my microphone. If you remember right, last time I teased you that this might be the last episode I record in the truck, well, that ended up not being quite right. But this one probably will be for sure. Probably will be for sure. Makes a lot of sense, right? Anyway, let me know if you can tell the difference in just this microphone setup. Not that it matters a whole lot, but, well, it does to me because I'm anal about this kind of stuff. Oh, hey, for you new to the show, my name's Todd McCann. Yes, I'm the anal audio guy for no reason whatsoever because nobody cares. But anyway, I am obviously the podcaster here. I'm a blogger. I'm a freelance writer. I've written 2 trucking ebooks, one called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job and the other called Trucking Life, both available on Amazon or at abouttruckdriving.com. Check those out. And today, what do we got going today? Man, we got lots of crap going on today. But right now, I am stuck in a blizzard. How have you guys been doing? Have you been dodging all this weather? I know my friend driver Chris Max seems to get caught in it every single time there's any weather in the country. You can almost guarantee you he's sitting right in the middle of it. I've been pretty lucky. Just keep avoiding it. Coming up, I'm just outrunning it, or I'm just coming in behind it, or something. I've been only shut down just a couple of times so far this year. And as those of you new to the show probably don't know, my employer actually does shut us down. They shut down entire sections of the fleet and just, during active weather and stuff like that and tell us to shut down. So that's what I'm talking about when I mean shut down, not like state shutdowns or anything like that. But anyway, I've kind of avoided those most of the time, but here I sit today in one. Not that it really matters because I was out of hours anyway. I got parked maybe an hour before they shut down the roads. I'm in Kansas, kind of out in the middle of freaking nowhere right now. So anyway, why don't we just get right on with the news? What do you think about that? The first story is about driving in poor weather. This one's from overdriveonline.com. It's called Trucking Law. Can you refuse to drive in poor weather? What this is, overdriveonline.com has decided to put out a new monthly feature of it's a trucking law segment, which is really cool. Basically, frequently asked questions. And they're talking to Paul Taylor. He is he's a managing partner of Truckers Justice Center. And I'll give you his phone number and website here in a bit. He is open for phone calls if you have questions and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, what they're covering on this one is, do you have the right to refuse to drive in dangerous road conditions? You know, this time of year, you hear it on Twitter, you hear it on Facebook, and whatever social media you're on, or just talking to people in the truck stops, they're always like, oh, my dispatcher was trying to get me to drive in this stuff, or they were threatening to fire me or whatever. There's always some kind of story like that. Whether they're true or not, who knows? But I do know that happens. You do see it happen sometimes. But anyway, this story, well, not story, really, little article thing addresses that. Okay, so basically here's the answer. If conditions become sufficiently dangerous, the operation of the commercial motor vehicle shall be discontinued and shall not be resumed until it's safe to drive. So, all these dispatchers who are telling you to drive and you have to drive, don't believe it for a second. Some of you, of course you old-timers, you do what you want to do because you ain't letting anybody tell you to drive unsafe, right? But sometimes new people have a tendency to, be pushed around a little bit. They don't want to look like a wimp because they're shutting down when other drivers are still out on the road. Like I always like to say, in winter driving, you really just need to drive to your comfort level. If I feel comfortable going 50, 55 mile an hour on snow-packed roads, that's me. I've been driving 21 years. If you've been driving 6 months or a year, maybe you're comfortable at 45, maybe you're comfortable at 40 or even 35. I would like to suggest if you're only comfortable at 35 mile an hour, get off the dang road. Please, just get off the dang road. You're more of a problem and you're wasting your 70-hour clock at the same time. Anyway, so I just wanted to point this out that basically what Mr. Taylor here is saying is that you cannot be forced to drive. Now, this does not mean that you can refuse a load because you think it's going to be bad or because the forecast says it's bad. Just because, some snow's coming, you can't say, well, I don't want that load because it's going into Colorado and I know there's some weather coming through there. You can't do that. You have to take the load, but then once you're in the conditions or you're coming up on conditions really fast, before you actually get in them and it's coming, you can stop and you can legally do that and your employer can't say squat about it. But he also suggests that you cover your butt on this. Basically, send this message in a Qualcomm or SATCOM or PeopleNet or whatever you've got in your computer system in the truck. Send a message stating why you're stopped, where you're stopped, and the weather conditions. Make sure you point out those weather conditions and put in there that you do not feel safe driving in it. And then take a picture of that, unless you can save that on your device. A lot of these devices will save it for a while, but then if it runs out of room, it will kick it off. So I would take a photo of that message you sent off, and when they send you a message back, I would also get a shot of that, not a screenshot, a photo of that also. Even if it's, them saying, okay, go ahead and park, because you want that. So if they come back later and say you should have been driving, you're late for this load, we're going to give you an out of service failure, or not out of service, but a performance failure or something like that. You don't want to be in that position. So just document everything you do. Okay. So if you want further information on this, you can check out the link in the show notes to this article. Or if you want to reach out to Mr. Taylor, that's Paul Taylor. He is with the Truckers Justice Center, which is at truckersjusticecenter.com. And his phone number is 855-943-3518. And hey, Mr. Taylor, thanks for doing this, because this is going to be a really cool segment. And thank you to all the folks at overdriveonline.com, of course. Hey, before I get to the next story, I forgot to mention something. In the last podcast, it was very late coming out. And quite honestly, I was waiting on a new feature to come out that actually would show you images and chapter markers and hyperlinks that actually worked within your podcast app. This is called an enhanced MP3. Not that you care, but I would just like to point out that I did get that successfully done in the last podcast. So, like, for instance, when I gave the tribute to Trucker Bob, I showed a picture of him. And on all the news stories, there was not necessarily pictures on those, but there was links to them and like a chapter heading that would tell you like the name of the article and that kind of a thing. It's really handy. So if you're like, if I start talking about a news story that you're just not interested in, you can just click the forward button and it'll, instead of jumping 30 seconds or whatever your podcast app normally does, it'll jump to the next chapter. So it's kind of a handy thing. Like for the Volvo ads, I had some pictures of the interior of the cab that were kind of cool. So it's just a new feature I'm playing with. It's just a little bit of extra work. So I just thought it was kind of cool. Now, just so you know, not every podcast app supports this. For instance, you won't see this information like if you play it from my website or anything like that. But apps like Overcast support enhanced MP3, so you'll see all the images and all that stuff. Pocket Cast does. I know iCatcher does to a limited extent. I don't know about Podcast Addict because I don't have an Android device, or I don't know about the Google Podcast app either. Not sure about those. I'd kind of doubt it because I actually don't think Apple Podcast app supports it either, which is kind of strange considering they are the king of podcasts. But, oh well, whatever. Anyway, I just thought this was a neat little feature and it might come in handy for those of you who listen, especially since some of my podcasts do go kind of long. And if you want to skip a story you're just not interested in, you're welcome to do that. Although I would appreciate it if you did not, obviously, because I am very witty and I say funny things all the time, right? So you don't want to miss any of that, right? Okay. I probably just lost you. You probably just skipped right then, didn't you? You skipped. You skipped me saying that, didn't you? All right, let's get back to the news. Hey, next up, it's February, right? Well, that means your employer, if you drive for somebody else, should have gotten you your W-2 forms in the mail. They were supposed to go out on January 31st. If you don't have them yet, you should. Anyway, I got mine already. I did my taxes already. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because if you remember in the last podcast, we talked about a new tax law that went into effect in January of 2018, where owner-operators could still file per diem, get the meal deductions and, gloves and work clothes and anything that they want to buy for the truck, CB and all that stuff. But company drivers could no longer do this. And personally, I still don't understand why this situation is, but if you remember correctly, I was kind of worried about it and what my tax situation was going to come out like. Well, like I said, I've already done my taxes this year, and I'm happy to report that it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Actually, it came out a little bit better. I was thinking, because the standard deduction, I mentioned this in the last podcast, so forgive me for repeating, but I mentioned that I realized I wasn't going to get the tax breaks for the meals and stuff like that and being gone on the road, but they did raise the standard deduction up well over, I think they doubled it or maybe possibly even more. And I was wondering if that was going to make up the difference. And actually it did. I got a bigger refund this year than last year. And I was actually worried about having to pay in. So that is good news. Of course, everybody's tax situation's different. So yours may come out a little bit different. But for the record, the Evil Overlord had a little bit of tax deduction for being in school. She did not work this past year, so we didn't have any income for her. And what else was there? Oh, of course, my side business, a little bit of money coming in there. So, and again, that didn't affect things very much at all, because I come out pretty even on this most of the time. Not a lot of taxable income there. But anyway, just in case you're worried about it, I hope you don't freak out quite as much. Anyway, this article that brought this to mind was from overdriveonline.com, link in the show notes. It's called As Per Diem Benefit Sunsets for Company Drivers, Carriers Find a Workaround, and OIDA asks Congress to act. Well, basically just the long and short of this thing is employers are now starting to really offer this per diem pay. Basically what this is pre-tax dollars. Personally, I don't totally understand this because, well, I'm not an accountant and I don't ever want to be an accountant. So you should always check with your tax professional, of course. But basically what this is you get to bring home more of your paycheck each week. On the flip side of that, come refund time, you may not get as big of a refund, which, hey, it depends on how you look at it. Some people don't want to give the government a loan all year long. Me, I'd rather do that and make sure I get a refund than have to pay at the end of the year. I just hate that. That's really bad. You feel like you're paying throughout the year already, and then you end up owing more taxes, and it just sucks. I'd rather get a refund. Anyway, the other thing to point out, as I pointed out in the last podcast, is that per diem pay will actually show you grossing less money. So it does lower your taxable income, which is good for taxes. But like I said before, if you're trying to get a loan for a house or a car or anything like that, it's actually going to show that you make less money than you do. Now, some employers actually put your extra per diem pay like in one of the other boxes on the W-2. If it's not on the W-2, I can almost guarantee you any banker's not going to believe you that, you made an extra $4,000 or $5,000 this year from, per diem. But hey, anyway, I just thought I would put that out there. Anyway, like I said, I got my tax return. I actually got it back already. I did them. If you do them early, you can get them back real fast. I got them back the second week of February. I filed just like the first week of February, so it was really fast. I was shocked at how fast it came back. But anyway, that was great for us. Hope you have good luck too. Anyway, link in the show notes to this story. Hey, next up, let's take a trip to fairyland, shall we? The land of make-believe. All right, this next one is Volvo Group invests in wireless battery charging. Hey, I love Volvo. They're a sponsor, but this one seems whacked out, I got to admit. Granted, I'm glad people are investing in this kind of thing, but man, it seems so far off. Basically, the idea is that these electric vehicles that we're all going to have in the future will be just charging off electricity that is in the air. Some say you can do that through a electrical power thing in the road, and as you're rolling, it'll just magically charge your batteries and stuff. They say that's the future. Some people say the near future. I'd say don't hold your breath, but it's a cool idea. Anyway, this is a group. It's not Volvo itself, I guess. It's a Volvo group. It's basically their venture capital group, and they're investing in a company called Momentum Dynamics Incorporated, and they specialize in this kind of power wireless charging stuff. Anyway, sounds like something from sci-fi. I hope it works eventually. That would be really cool if you didn't have to plug anything in, wouldn't it? That'd be awesome. Anyway, good luck with that, Volvo. All right, now, what would a Trucker Dump podcast be without at least one story on automated trucks, right? Well, it is all the rage. This one's from fleetowner.com. It's called Report Finds Trust in Autonomous Technologies Falling. Well, gee, haven't I been saying this all along that, it's going to take a lot for consumers to get on board with this? Well, apparently here's the deal. This is a study by some company called Deloitte. I'd never heard of them. Deloitte. And they found that only 39% of U.S. customers trust the OEM manufacturers to bring autonomous stuff to their cars. Well, this stat doesn't really surprise me either. Have you ever sat in a modern car and played with the infotainment system? They're all horrible. So why do we expect them to be able to automate our cars? They can't even figure out how to, that we just want a dang dial to turn the turn the volume up. We don't need a on-screen slider. Come on, get real. I just want a knob to turn my freaking fan on. Oh, anyway, I digress. The study said that 70% of respondents from the U.S. expressed a desire to find ways to get their destination in the least amount of time. Well, that's not a surprise. Nobody wants to, spend all day driving when they could be looking at their phones. But almost as many also expressed concern about data being shared with external parties, which is not a surprise at all considering Facebook and all of the evil in this world. But hey, also unsurprising is that 1/3 of U.S. consumers said they don't want to pay anymore for connected vehicles. Hey, imagine that. We get something for nothing. Oh, God, this modern generation, I swear to God. Anyway, at least 42% of them do say they'd be willing to pay an extra $500. Well, that's not too bad, I guess, but man, 33% want something for free. Imagine that. Anyway, I just thought I would point this out that, everybody's saying autonomous is right around the corner. Well, it's not, because people don't have any faith that's going to happen. Maybe the third parties will step up, but then they've got to sell it to the big manufacturers and, of vehicles. And if history is any indication, I mean, they could hire out this software stuff for their cars, to get the infotainment systems right, but they don't. They try to do it in-house and they suck at it. So I wish they'd just stop. So are they going to rely on themselves? Are they going to rely on third parties to get these automated cars out? And that's not even mentioning trucks. This is just autonomous vehicles in general. And then we've got the whole trust issue, like I've spoken of many times, where people are going to freak out when they see a truck going down the road and the driver's not even pay attention, or maybe he's not even in the front seat at all. Yeah, that's going to freak them the heck out. So basically, we got a long way to go. And again, that article is on fleetowner.com, link in the show notes. Hey, do you remember in the last podcast, I think it was, we were talking about the new Cascadia and how it was going to be the first autonomous, level 2 autonomous vehicle that was coming out in 2020? Do you remember that? Well, a guy named Jason Cannon got to actually drive one of these things. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but he says, like the automated steering works pretty well, but basically I'm just going to sum this up by saying this is a level 2 automated vehicle, which means it still needs a driver and it still needs quite a bit of input. It's pretty good at what it does, but unless the road conditions are perfect, you're going to need to pay attention. So anyway, if you're interested in reading about his experience with this Freightliner Cascadia and the autonomous features, go check out the link in the show notes. This is an article I found on commercialcarrierjournal.com. Actually, it's ccjdigital.com, so kind of a weird URL there. Link in the show notes anyway. You've heard of the NTSB, right? That's the National Transportation Safety Board. This article on overdriveonline.com points out that the NTSB does not have any regulatory power. I can't say that word. But it is their job to recommend to regulators how to make the highway safer. Well, guess what? 6 of the 10 items that they suggest this year have to do with trucks. Imagine that. Who's shocked? Who's shocked? Raise your hand. I'm not. Anyway, here's what they're asking for. They want to, of course, eliminate distracted driving. They're saying no use of a cell phone whatsoever, except for when you're using navigation software. Okay, whatever. They're already working towards that, so whatever. They're also encouraging the development of features that disable phones while a vehicle is in motion. I don't like that one bit, but hey, they're just making recommendations. Hopefully some of this stuff won't go through. Next up, they want to end alcohol and other drug impairment. Well, who doesn't want that? The problem is, according to the last study I saw, it was like less than 1% of accidents caused out on the road are by alcohol or drugs. So what are they going for here? 0? You're never going to get 0. Anyway. Okay, next up, they say they want to reduce speeding-related crashes. And, of course, they want to do this by speed limiting trucks and buses. Gee, There's a shocker too. I just don't understand how they think that slower trucks are safer when all the other vehicles around them are flying by. Anyway, I really don't expect these folks to be smart. Anyway, well, there goes my chance of ever getting anybody on the show from the NTSB. Not that I had planned to anyway. All right, the next thing they want is more collision avoidance systems. And I've got no problem with that. You know, if they want this automated emergency braking and forward collision avoidance stuff, great. I'll take that on my truck any day. As long as it works and it doesn't beep every time I go under a bridge. Next, they want to reduce fatigue-related crashes. Well, according to my last study, those aren't very high either when it comes to trucker, but it is what it is. They're always going to try to get us to not be fatigued. Well, I got news for you. If you want to do that, change the freaking hours of service. Get rid of the 14-hour rule. That would do wonders for us not being fatigued. It's amazing we don't have more crashes because of fatigue, honestly, because of that stupid 14-hour rule. But of course, as part of this, they also want to, the final one that they suggest is they want medical fitness and screen test for obstructive sleep apnea. So basically they want mandatory screening for all truckers and rail, people who drive on the rail, I guess. Anything safety sensitive position, which would be a truck driver, of course. So, man, I mean, they already do this somewhat, but they really don't enforce it that much. You know, when you go in for your DOT physical, they ask you a series of questions. You know, do you ever fall asleep during the day? How likely is it if you were to lay down in the afternoon that you could nap? Which I don't think is very relevant because I don't have sleep apnea. I never fall asleep by accident, but if I lay down in the afternoon and take a nap, I can take me some nap. So I don't really know what they're getting at. But anyway, apparently, like this article says, they're really pushing that every trucker go through some sort of mandatory screening. That's not good. I mean, it'd be great if everybody could get treated for sleep apnea, but I hate the fact that they want all of us to be mandatory tested. That's just horrible. Let's just hope it doesn't all go through. Anyway, a link in this article is on Overdrive. Well, no, the link in the article is in the show notes. This is to overdriveonline.com. Hey, I just realized we're only about halfway through the news story, so let's go ahead and get to our sponsor break. You know, as an over-the-road trucker, I spend a heck of a lot of time in the sleeper cab of my truck. The designers at Volvo know this. Head on over to volvotrucks.us and check out the story behind how they designed the sleeper cab with the trucker in mind. These new V&L series interiors are totally awesome. Of course, the first thing you need for good rest is an awesome mattress. Well, if you've ever driven a regular fleet truck, you know the mattresses pretty much suck. But we get what we get, right? But the Volvo V&L gets a sweet mattress. It's an embedded spring mattress, but it's got an extra layer of foam on top, and then it's got a pillow top on top of that to boot. This thing just looks like it'd be a lot of fun to bounce on. Take that how you will. But you know what else is special about this mattress? It bends. And why does it bend? Because Volvo offers the first reclining bunk in a semi-truck. How cool is that? And once the bunk is reclined, there's a cool little tabletop that sits right up flush against the back wall, and it just swivels out right in perfect position for you to watch TV, eat, watch movies, whatever you're going to do back there. How about podcast? You know, like I said, I spend a lot of time back here in the sleeper. Most of that is sitting on the bunk. Boy, I wish I had one of these new V&L with the reclining bunks. So I got to tell you, right now, what I do is I have to prop pillows up against the back wall. My feet hang off the edge of the bed. It's just not comfortable at all. It never has been. So I'd pretty much kill a family of chipmunks for this reclining bunk. But you know, that's not the only cool features. You know how hard it is to get in the top bunk of some of these trucks? This was one of the things the evil overlord always hated to do. She'd get up there and start cussing immediately. It was always so hard for her to get up there. Well, the Volvo has a telescoping ladder in it that just comes factory in all their units. And when you're done with the ladder, it stores out of the way behind one of the cabinets. And there's lots of other cool features back there for the driver. For instance, the window shades. No more messing around with Velcro or snaps. Just slide them up. Super easy. And hey, if you're laying back there and you're feeling super lazy and then you think, crap, I forgot to lock the front doors. Well, there's a button on the wall. How cool is that? Click, and then you can go to sleep. Sweet dreams. But hey, I can talk about the V&L interiors till I'm blue in the face. But wouldn't you rather see it for yourself? Of course you would. Well, don't let me stop you. Head on over to volvotrucks.us and check out all the cool photos and the videos. And thanks to Volvo Trucks for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. Hey, do you remember in the last episode we were talking about the 8-state truck parking initiative thing? Iowa, Indiana, Kentucky, Minnesota, and Kansas, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Remember that? They're all working trying to get information to truckers, on how many parking spaces are available. This is actually all being done by a $25 million grant. So finally some of our tax money is going towards, figuring out this parking situation. Anyway, they've got good news. It could be rolled out by the end of January. It could be already in effect, by the time you're listening to this. Now, you may or may not see some of this. In these states, like most of it is really just rest areas, reporting on rest areas and how many parking spots are available in the rest areas. It'd be great. I mean, the vast majority of parking is in truck stops. So this is a great start, but I wish they'd work on the truck stops. And that is their plan for the future. But right now you'll see, signs out on the road in these states saying, how many spots are available in the rest area. That's pretty cool, because we've all been in that situation where you don't really want to pull into a truck or a rest area late at night because you're not sure what kind of moron has parked in the way, and maybe you get in there and you get trapped and you can't get out without waking somebody up. We've all been in that situation. It's horrible. So, if you can read a digital sign out on the road before you even go in there and it says that there's 0 spots available, well, great. Now you're not wasting your time going in there and risk getting caught. So anyway, they say, of course, this is also going to be available for through the mobile apps or websites. Of course, these websites and mobile apps actually have to implement this, so that may take a little while. But apparently it's supposed to be available sometime in February, so that would be really cool. Now, if you want to see what areas are being monitored and what they're reporting on, you can go to the link in the show notes here, and there's a list of all of the different places in each state. Again, overdriveonline.com, link in the show notes. Hey, this part is edited in after the fact. I just wanted to jump in here because I found out some new information after I recorded that, and I'm just too stinking lazy to go back and fix it. So, hey, like I said, I was crossing into Indiana today from Ohio, and I saw this giant billboard, and it had the letters TPIMS on it, which, is what this stands for, this parking situation thing. And, I just flat out told you that, no people have to implement this thing before, you're going to see any benefit of it. Well, guess what? They have a website out now. It's trucksparkhere.com. Link in the show notes, of course. And on this site, you'll see how this system actually works, how they actually monitor all these spots. And they've also listed the applications and websites that have already taken advantage of this. I had no clue. I just told you that nobody has. Well, there are some interesting ones. Of course, there's this website here, trucksparkhere.com again. There's also an app called Smart Truck Route. Milon by PC Miler supports it. Truck Map. The North American Council for Freight Efficiency, which I'd never heard of. That's NACFE. There's an app called Trucker Tools, American Truck Parking, Road Hunter, which I have heard of, and Truck Parking USA, which I've also heard of. So apparently people are already implementing this. And if you're a developer by chance listening to this, you can go to this website, trucksparkhere.com, and there's developer info too if you want to add this into your app. So please get on that, everyone. Now, again, right now this is really just for rest areas. Most truck stops haven't implemented this system yet, but supposedly they're trying to get everybody on board. And I see this as the wave of the future, so I hope people really start tapping into this system. But for now, you can go directly to this website if you don't have any of those apps and just find parking there. Bring up a map. You just click on whatever location you're interested in, and it's up to the minute information on how many spots are in that rest area you're looking at to stop at tonight. And you can just click a little refresh button that's right handy there anytime you want, and it'll give you up to the second up to date. So that's pretty awesome. Anyway, I just wanted to break in here and let you know about this website. Again, for the 18th time, that's trucksparkhere.com. Check it out. Link in the show notes. Okay, I'm outie. Hey, speaking of parking, like I just said, they're not monitoring these spots in the truck stops yet, but it doesn't keep us from wanting more parking, right? Well, this article on overdriveonline.com, link in the show notes, says Pilot Flying J looks to add new locations and enhance existing stores in 2019. Great. So apparently they're adding 15 new travel centers across U.S. and Canada, and it's going to add more than 900 truck parking spaces. That's pretty darn cool. That's awesome. And like I say, maybe these places will monitor them before too long, and you won't have to drive through every single one of these truck stops and drive around looking for a spot every night. That'd be super cool. But they're also going to update 10 of their facilities. I don't know which one those are, but we can probably all guess. We've all been in some crappy ones, so hopefully that will go well. And the article also says that they have 135 roadside service trucks on the road in 36 states. To go along with their 21 service centers. They only have 21 service centers? I guess that sounds about right. I would have guessed they had more. But they are looking to open 10 more service centers this year, so that's cool. Any place we can go to get our trucks worked on, the more places there are, the less of a line there is, so that's awesome. So, good on you, Pilot Flying J. Get on it. Build like the wind. And why don't you give me a reserved lifetime parking spot while you're at it? Yeah, that's going to happen. All right, this next one is going to be super, super quick. OverdriveOnline.com points to the ATRI updates list of idling regulations. That's the American Transportation Research Institute. And they put out a list of idling regulations for all of the United States. So basically, I'm going to put a link to this article in the show notes, but more importantly, I'm going to put a link to the actual list of regulations for each and every jurisdiction in this country. So they've got a complete updated list, so you can go check that out. You can either download this as a PDF, or you can just possibly, you might want to just possibly, like save the link on your phone, like to your home screen or something. So if you're in an area and you're wondering if you should be idling or not, you can just tap the link and go directly there. That way, if they update it again, you'll be getting the current version from the website, not something that you printed out, many, many years ago. It's kind of funny, though, because I actually have had this list of idling regulations on my website for a long time, and it was so outdated that just recently I took it down. And then they put out a new one. And honestly, I can't remember if I have put the new one up on my website or not. If I have, it'll be at abouttruckdriving.com/free-stuff. Like I say, I can't remember. I'm building a new website in the background, and I'm getting confused on what's on the new site and what's on the old site. So go check that out, or just click the link in the show notes for Pete's sake. All right. Surely by now you all have heard about Virginia wanting to put tolls on I-81, right? This has been going on for quite a while, and they were putting tolls for everybody, but they were really targeting truckers. Like the cars could get by with just a little bit. I mean, and there was even some exemptions for them if they were only going so many exits that they weren't going to have to pay at all. Trucks got no exemptions whatsoever. And perhaps the worst thing about this, I think, is that they were actually planning to fine you and penalize you for being on a side road. I think it was Highway 11. Is that what runs alongside there? Oh, I should know this, but I don't. Anyway, they were basically going to penalize you for not taking the toll road. Is that even legal? I have to ask because they backed off. They backed off for now, the article says. This is in overdriveonline.com. So at least for now, they have put it off, and they're going to look at other options. This tolling trucks only has been going on for quite a while. Everybody's trying to do it, and it just sucks. I mean, we're bringing this crap for other people. We're not using most of these products. It's everybody else in that state, and they want to freaking tax us with a toll. Anyway, it's frustrating. But thankfully, like I said, they have backed off for now. But for now, that's the important words right there. They may try to go forward with it in some other way. Stay tuned. Hey, next up, I know we got some gun owners out there, right? Probably got a lot of people who actually have a concealed carry permit also, right? Well, if you don't know, if you're new to the industry, carrying a weapon in a vehicle, a lot of people say it's illegal, but it's not. It's not technically illegal. It might be against your company's policy if you are, if you're a company driver, but there is no law saying you can't carry in a vehicle. However, there are states' rules, so you have to do it differently. Some states may make you split up the bullets from the actual weapon. It just depends from state to state, and that is part of the problem. It varies state to state. It's insane the way it works. Well, according to overdriveonline.com, this article says Senate bill will expand concealed carry reciprocity. Wow, I said that word right. I'm kind of surprised. Anyway, this bill is co-sponsored by 33 Republican senators. Imagine that, Republicans. That doesn't surprise me when it comes to guns. And it's led by John Cornyn from Texas. That doesn't surprise me either. Texas and guns. Those two go together like peanut butter and jelly. But hey, basically what this law is saying, it's not a federal rule. They're not trying to get like a federal mandated rule. What they're saying is that this concealed carry permit should be more like a driver's license. We don't have to have a driver's license in each and every state. We have one driver's license, and when we go to another state, we have to obey their laws. This should be no different when it comes to concealed carry. So basically this is saying that it's a reciprocity agreement between all of these states that if you have a concealed carry weapon, you can, or permit, you can do the same in all of these other states also. And you won't have all these weird, you'll still have the different rules, but you won't have to get a permit for each and every state. Because let's be honest, all you truckers out there that are carrying these vehicles or these weapons around are probably not legal in all the places you're going. But hey, that's your choice, I guess. This is America after all. Anyway, I hope this goes through because it just makes sense, and common sense is sorely needed in this country today. Link in the show notes for more information. Hey, next up we got some awesome news. Well, if it actually goes through anyway. This one comes from landlinemag.com. It's called 8 States Considered Raising Speed Limits and Eliminating Speed Differentials. How awesome would that be? All the details are in the show notes, so click the link in the show notes to go all the details. But here are the highlights. First and foremost is California. We all know that sucks, right? 55 mile an hour, I think, what was it? I figured up one time. If you go from Mexico up to the Oregon border, it's like 700 and, oh God, what is it? I can't remember. 700 and something miles. But, it's all 55. It's insane because it's pretty wide open, And at least one lawmaker in California, which probably doesn't mean it won't pass, honestly, if it's just one. But he wants to reduce, well, not totally get rid of it, but reduce it. So large vehicles would be set at 65. They would be able to go 65 in rural areas. And, cars can still go 70 in some of those areas, so there's still a split. But, hey, it's better than going 55, and it's better than that huge differential all across the state. So that's probably the best one, I think. Indiana is another one. They're looking to, right now, trucks can go 65, and cars can go 70, and they're looking at trying to bump that speed limit up to 70 for trucks and cars, so that would be cool. Iowa's looking to raise their speed limits from 70 to 75. Apparently, there are 17 states that authorize speeds of 75 mile an hour right now. Man, I had no idea there were that many of them. They're probably all out west, and I don't get out there anymore, so that's probably what it is. I know the last time I was out in Utah, it was like 80 mile an hour or something like that. And I was like, holy crap, this would be nice if my truck would go any faster than 64. Oh, well, it is what it is. Mississippi has a weird one. They're just wanting to actually slow everybody down. They're saying in any inclement weather, any large trucks or buses need to go 45 mile an hour. But it's a vague rule. I'm not going to go into it all here. If you want more information on this one, it's very vague. It's like saying, well, what is inclement weather? Is it just poor visibility or is it not? It's a mess. Gosh, Mississippi, what are you doing? Missouri wants to raise their speed limits from 70 to 75 on rural interstates and freeways. That would be cool since that's my home state. Come on, Missouri. Show me. Do it. Hey, apparently North Dakota is one of those 75 mile an hour states, at least on interstates 29 and 94. Every place else is 70 and 2-lane highways are 65. Well, they are proposing 80 mile an hour on the interstates and 75 on the 4-lane divided highways. This bill is sponsored by Republican Jake Blum, and he points out that South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming are already 80 mile an hour. Well, I guess that just answered my question as to what states are 75. That at least covers part of it. Now, this next one I know the evil overlord would love. For those of you who are new to the show, the evil overlord is my wife and ex-co-driver. She's been driving to Tulsa once a week for school, and it's 75 mile an hour out on the interstate, and she loves it. Of course, she doesn't go 75 miles an hour because she's a naughty girl. But they are actually looking at bumping up the turnpike speeds to 80 mile an hour. Man, she would love that. The article says in 2018, a similar bill was approved by the state, but it died in the House. So we'll see. It's going to try to go through at least again. And there's another one about Oregon, but it's just something stupid saying that the city of Portland has a right to designate speeds, their own speeds, which is totally unimportant. Nobody really cares, right? Maybe some of you from Portland do. Anyway, for all those detailed information, there's more information that I didn't speak about here, but for all of that, check out the link in the show notes to the landlinemag.com article. Hey, here's a quick one from overdriveonline.com. We just heard about a bunch of proposals to raise speed limits, right? Well, Minnesota actually did raise their speed limits to 60 mile an hour on over 5,000 miles of highways, rural highways, basically. So there's a map here. If you follow the link, there's a map for the roads that are affected by this. And these have already started going into effect. They've already put up the new signs, and they're expecting to be done by spring. How cool is that? Now, all we need is for Iowa to follow suit, because anybody who's driven in Iowa on the back roads knows if it's a 2-lane road, you're going 55 mile an hour. And it is insane because there's nothing in Iowa. It's just a straight line most of the time. So why are we going 55? You're killing me, Iowa. Fix that. Follow suit. Follow your big brother, Minnesota, please, for the sanity of all of us. All right, it's time to address the elephant in the room. We have all heard about these slow rolls that are going on, right? For those of you new to the industry, what this slow roll is basically a protest by truckers, and they just cruise along at 45, 50 mile an hour, big long line of them, just to kind of raise the point. Everybody, supposedly everybody that sees them is going to say, oh, wow, what's the plight of the trucker? Let's help them out. I'm not sure that's the way it's going to work, though. But anyway, this first one may have already happened by the time you are hearing this. Yep, now that I look at the article in overdriveonline.com, link in the show notes, yeah, it already has happened. It happened on February 21st. This took place on I-465 and the loop around Indianapolis. Apparently, between 75 and 100 trucks were supposed to be part of it, and actually, they say up to several hundred. I don't know who's estimating that, but they say a bunch of truckers joined in when they saw what was going on. Apparently this was a peaceful one. Everything went smoothly. Nobody got arrested. Nobody was jerks. Everybody just stayed in one single file line going around the loop. So they took a couple of laps and just to raise awareness for this kind of stuff, for the plight of the trucker, like I say. And the big one, this is just one of a few, actually, that's taken place recently. They've had some in Illinois and Texas, which, honestly, I didn't hear a word about. So it just kind of goes to show what these things really do. I mean, the trucking industry might pay attention to them a little bit, but that's really not who they're trying to reach. So I'm not really sure what the goal of these things are. Well, I do know what the goal is. It's to raise awareness for truckers and our problems. People don't like the electronic logbooks. They don't like the hours of service and stuff like that. And, it's kind of like I'm reading some people are pointing out that, hey, why are you doing all these protests right now when we have an FMCSA that seems to be willing to make changes to the hours of service and make them fast? They seem to be very responsive. So why are you, pushing this now of all times? But anyway, what this is leading up to is a nationwide truck driver shutdown plan for April 12th. This is from the members of a group called Black Smoke Matters. That's kind of a funny name, actually, but kind of reminds me of the shirt the Evil Overlord and I got for my brother this past Christmas. He's an old hippie metalhead, so we got him a shirt that said, "Metalheads Matter." Anyway, back to the protest. Apparently the idea is that, I can't remember where, I think it starts in Marion, Illinois, and they're going to roll up towards Chicago, all at 45 or 50 mile an hour. And apparently the cops can't really do anything about it as long as they aren't impeding traffic. I do find it kind of ironic that they're raising awareness of trucking stuff by doing a voluntary split speed limit. They're always saying that's unsafe to go different speeds. Okay, so let's all go 45 or 50 for hundreds of miles. I don't get it. Anyway, we will see if anything becomes of this. I'd be interested to hear your input on this. What do you think about these kinds of shutdowns? Do they work? How could they work better? Do you want it to succeed? Do you not care whatsoever? Are you planning on taking part in it? I know I won't, because I'm a company driver and I'd probably get fired over the thing. So I'm just going to keep rolling, whatever. I don't think these things are effective, but I would love to hear your opinions on the matter. Email me at truckerdump@gmail.com. You can send me a written email, or better yet, send me your thoughts in a voice memo and tell me what you think about all this. And you can find that link in the show notes. Hey, this next story I'm not really all that interested in, honestly, but it brought something else to mind, so I thought I would mention it. I found this on thetruckersreport.com. This is executives ordered to pay truckers millions for misclassifying them as contractors. This has to do with the whole California thing and something to do with the ports out there and, companies wrongfully claiming truckers to be independent contractors when they really weren't. And there's a lot of tax benefits to that for the carrier. And that's what I wanted to bring up about this. If you want to read this story, check out the link in the show notes. Be my guest. But what I wanted to talk about was, for a lot of you new drivers, you don't know. there is this thing called a 1099 driver, and it's come up in it's been questioned recently on whether this is actually legal or not. And basically, a 1099 says that you are a independent contractor, and the thing is, lots of carriers, well, not lots, some shady. How do I put this? Some shady carriers are actually claiming you to be a independent contractor, even though you only work for them. And that goes against the very nature of the rule. The rule is that if you only work for one company, you are an employee. But by giving you a 1099 and claiming you as an independent contractor, they don't have to provide benefits. They don't have to take taxes out, all that. They just leave all that on yourself. You know, recently I saw an article somewhere, or it wasn't an article, it was a classified ad, and it was like 70 cents per mile for drivers, and I thought, okay, there's going to be a catch to this for sure, but I'm the curious kind of guy, and I like to keep my options open, so I called, and the first thing I did was ask if it was a 1099, and he said yes it was, and I said never mind. So I do have a friend, is it Adrian? Squints. I think it's Squints who is a independent contractor doing this. And he has no problems with it because he likes the guy he works for and he's smart enough to keep out his own taxes and stuff like that. But this will get a lot of new drivers into a lot of trouble. So just do not be enticed by high mileage pay, CPMs, cents per mile. Great. If you can get high mileage pay, great. But just make sure you are not a 1099 employee. Make sure you are 1099 employee. That there's no such thing. A 1099 contractor. Make sure you are actually an employee of this company. Okay? There's my public service announcement. Again, link in the show notes if you're interested in this article, but it really doesn't have anything to do with what I just talked about. Man, this news is going long this time. I know I say that every time, but it really is going long this time. That'll probably be okay because I think the topic will be the main topic is going to be a little bit shorter today. We'll see. If not, oh well, it's long. Split it up into two or just enjoy the longness of it, right? Anyway, I did want to touch on a couple more stories here. The first one is from truckersreport.com. Sorry, thetruckersreport.com. I always forget that. I don't know why I do. But this one is called, Here Are the Top 10 Worst Traffic Bottlenecks for Truckers in This Country. Well, you know what? This one's done by the ATRI, again, the American Transportation Research Institute. And quite honestly, I don't know why they do these kinds of studies. If they're not going to do anything about the problem, why do we care? I mean, did we really need a study to know that the George Washington Bridge outside of Manhattan is the number one bottleneck in the country? Okay, they say the average speed for a truck in that area is 31.7 miles per hour. Even in non-peak hours, it only goes up to 35.2 mile an hour. I'm not shocked by this. Is any trucker shocked by this? They also list like Atlanta, Los Angeles, Houston, Cincinnati, Chicago, Nashville. Well, they're all urban areas. Of course they're congested. I don't get the point of these stupid things, and I don't really get the point of why I just reported on it, other than to say it's stupid. So anyway, if you're going to do a study on something, fix the freaking problem. Wow. They did say, they did have one interesting little factoid down here at the bottom. It says congestion cost the trucking industry 1.2 billion hours of lost productivity in 2018. That's the equivalent of 425,533 truckers getting paid to sit at home and twiddle their thumbs for a full year. Wow. That puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Wow. All right. Anyway, that story's over. Two more real fast. All right. Now, you probably have heard me say that I'm on Twitter before, right? Todd McCann. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. I used to say that at the end of every podcast, and I don't anymore. Don't know why. Anyway, one thing that happens to me every single day is that I get at least probably 5 or 6 hot young women with their boobs hanging out follow me over on Twitter. And at first I thought, what is going on here, you know? But of course, they're just trying to get my attention. They're trying to be, you know, they're trying to get me to talk to them. Why? Because I'm really hot. No, that's not it. Because there's some fat guy, probably. They're not even a hot girl. They are fake. They are fake, fake, fake. Anyway, this article, overdriveonline.com, called Account of a Catfished Trucker, a Grave Reminder to be Leery of Online Romance Scams. You know, you want to laugh at something like this, but it's just sad is what it is. I'm not going to mention the guy's name because he's already been through enough, but basically he wired $25,000 to someone he met on Facebook. That's what they're trying to get you to do. You know, these scams are like, oh, I met this perfect woman, but she lives in another country and she's got to get over here, or she's out of the, you know, she's an American, but she's out of the country and something horrible happened. And then she needs more money to get back over. And then you never hear from them again. And you know, like I said, it's sad, but it's understandable because truckers are a lonely bunch. A lot of them are divorced, or maybe not even ever married because of their life out on the road. And it's just kind of heartbreaking, actually, you know, that some people are so lonely they are willing to fall for a scam like this. Especially, you know, if you're a 50-year-old dude like me that's got gray hair, there are no young women interested in you unless you are rich. Let's just say that. If you're rich, hey, maybe they're actually interested in marrying you. Other than that, they're not interested in you. They're not interested in me. They're certainly not interested in truckers. Okay? I'm just saying. So anyway, just let that be a warning to all of you to be careful online. Don't get suckered into something like this. It's really, really, really sad. And bringing up the rear, this last story is, well, there's no news really here. It's just a good article I found over on overdriveonline.com. This is from a guy named Gary Butches. I'm not sure. Sorry, Gary, if you're listening to the podcast. I doubt you are. Last name is spelled Buchs. He is a owner-operator who leases with Landstar. And he wrote an article called Mentoring is a Two-Way Street When It Comes to Benefits. And basically his point is that he mentors some newer owner-operators, I guess, you know, and they get to ask him questions and, you know, he gets to help them out on, you know, because he's been through a lot himself. And, you know, if he can help somebody out with less experience, then great. Well, he also points out that, you know, he gets a benefit from this too. And, you know, he gets to stay on his toes because the new guys are asking him questions that he'd never been asked before. Or, you know, maybe they're in a different situation than he is in, and he has to re-examine his thoughts about this, you know. And, of course, it's not just that. To me, it's not just about learning, but it's about the feeling you get when you help somebody else. You know, if you help out a new guy, you know, I was sitting at our yard over in Colorado the other night. I was talking to the evil overlord on the phone, and I was watching this woman driver who was trying to unhook her trailer. And, you know, I was just kind of talking to the evil overlord, and I wasn't really thinking about it, but I realized I had been watching her for like 15 minutes trying to drop this trailer, and she just could not get it unlatched from the fifth wheel. And I finally, you know, realized what I was watching, and I told the evil overlord, I said, hey, I'm going to go. There's this woman over here who's having trouble. And, you know, I walked over there to help, and she just said she tried everything. She tried rocking it back and forth. She tried raising and lowered the landing gear and everything. And I said, well, let me give it a shot. And I grabbed her fifth wheel puller, and I gave it a really easy yank. and it came right out. So I think she probably had fixed the problem without actually knowing it right before I got there. But, still it felt good. And she was very grateful. She goes, well, I appreciate you coming over here. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I said, well, apparently nothing, because it came right. It it was not jammed at all. So clearly it was her who did it. It wasn't my massive brute strength or anything. But you know what? It gave me a really good feeling to know I walked over there and helped that woman out. So, just let's all quit being so dang selfish, right? Let's help those who have less experience than us anytime we can get a chance. Make this trucking industry a better place, for Pete's sake. Lord knows it's bad enough as is, and, our piss poor attitudes sometimes just make it worse. So lighten up, help somebody. Man. Well, again, that finally does it for the news segment. Oh, man, I'm looking at this, and unedited, this is right around the 104 mark. So, man, I know the survey that I took said that you guys like the news segment. So, I don't know. Is it too long? Man, I feel like it's too long. But, there's a lot of news that builds up over the course of a month. And I know some of you are thinking, well, put out a podcast more than once a month. Well, I would if I could. I am trying. I am working on that. We'll see how that goes in the future. Anyway, that is the news for now. Let's get on with the rest of the show, shall we? Hey, actually, before we move on, let me pipe in here a second. I stopped the recording and I went back and listened to the news segment, and it sounds awful. I apologize for that. Maybe you didn't even notice. Maybe I'm just too anal about this stuff, but I noticed lots of noise, lots of, well, not just noise, but lots of breathing, lots of lip smacking, lots of popping peas and weird sounds, and it bugs the crap out of me. I should have done more testing. I should have stopped after like 5 minutes and tested it, but I didn't, and that was stupid on my part. Anyway, I know most of you don't care about the audio, but just so you know, I am aware that it sucks, but it was a long segment and I'm not going back. So everything after this should sound good like it does right now. Hopefully it sounds good. And the intro should sound good, like where I say what's coming up in the show. And feedback and all that, of course, will be good. So just the news segment is bad, and hopefully I will either figure out a different microphone setup or I will just continue to use the same one I have. I actually have a reason for trying to switch this up, and, well, I'll explain that after the main topic today. Anyway, let's get on with some trucker grub, shall we?
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
This is a tasty burger.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
Ooh, baby, how you like my microphone set up now? Yeah. Yes, I'm back on my good microphone setup. Anyway, you know what that interlude means, right? It's Trucker Grub time. And well, Dustin Socher is back to give us another excellent review. And if your podcast app supports it, you'll even get to see his lovely face. Take it away, Dustin.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Dustin again, and I wanted to tell you about a great place to eat at as you're out there on the road delivering all your goods and freight and all that awesome stuff that America runs off of. So this place is located in Texas, and it is, as far as I can see on their website, is a Texas-specific place. It is a Texas franchise, and they actually have 8 locations according to their website. But the one that I've been to is in Tyler, Texas, and this place is called Texas Best Smokehouse. That's Texas Best Smokehouse, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Now, I love barbecue, and I've ate at a lot of barbecue places, and I have this tendency to where every time I eat good barbecue, I claim that, well, this is the best I've ever ate. And so I've said that with Texas Best, and it is really awesome. So I don't want to sit here and say it's the best barbecue I've ever ate.
But it's the best barbecue he's ever
And
ate.
then go eat at another place and say, well, this is the best barbecue I've ever ate. So I just know if on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say this stuff is at least a 9.5, maybe even 11, depending on, what your measurement is. Y'all see what I did there? Anyways, but really though, Texas Best Smokehouse they have all sorts of stuff in there, man. It's not just the food that they have. The food's great. It really is really good. But they also have a whole bunch of other stuff, probably stuff that we as truck drivers really don't need to be buying more of. But they have, man, like brand specific jerky, all sorts of flavors. They have all sorts of, sweet stuff. They have like, it's like this interstate general store, almost like an interstate general store. If you remember the Stuckies in the past, and those seem to be dying out now, but the Stuckies of the past, how you'd go in there, and I remember as a kid going into Stuckies and they'd have all sorts of stuff, and I'd look around. That's kind of what Texas Best is, but a modern style. And man, the one that I went to in Tyler, the bathrooms were like almost like a 5-star hotel. It was ridiculous. And I didn't get a chance to take a shower there because I'm kind of like Todd. I'm cheap and I don't particularly want to pay for showers. I will go out of my way to use a free shower.
Me
with Flying
too.
J or Pilot. So
or I'll just skip one.
I didn't get to see their showers, but if the bathroom is any indication to what the showers look like, they must be awesome. So I recommend stopping by Texas Best Smokehouse. The website to look at their locations is texasbestsmokehouse.com. Now, I've passed these places, where I've delivered in Texas, throughout Dallas and, areas that I've delivered around there. And every one of them that I have passed by have had truck parking. Now, we'll also say that the ones that I passed by that had truck parking, they filled up pretty quick. The one in Tyler, I think I caught it at a decent time, so it wasn't too bad. But every other one when you look at the Trucker Path app and you pass by it, it is slam packed full. So apparently they're doing something right, in general across the locations. So just try to plan your route out and look on the website where the locations are at. They're listed on Trucker Path, obviously, if they have the truck parking. I don't know if all of them do, but again, I know the one that I went to did. And I think there was another one that I went to in Longview, Texas. There's another one there. So another time when I delivered there, and I had more of a tough time finding parking there, but the food was great across the board. So the one in Tyler is at exit 571A. That's 571 Alpha on Interstate 20. So if you're passing through there, you're heading to Dallas or out of it, man, try to stop by there. Get some awesome barbecue, some of the extra vittles on the side. It is awesome. It's great. So that is it. And as always, I recommend that you get out and see some stuff when you're out there on the road as best as you can. I know we all work hard out here, no matter what you do, whether it's over the road, whether it's local, whatever entails this driving job, this professional driver job that we have, you work hard. And for that, not only should you be compensated, but see something, get something extra out of that. And for me, I like to explore a lot of other things also, but food is great too. So I really like food. Yeah. And great food sometimes is hard to come by these days. So check it out. And as always too, y'all stay safe out there driving up and down the highways of America.
Well, Dustin, thanks for that. I will try to stay safe, although I may have a story about that in the next episode. Stay tuned. But you know what? For a change of pace, I actually took someone up on their Trucker Grub offer. I received this quite a while ago, back before the January podcast came out, and I put out a call for Trucker Grub segments, and driver Chris Mack and Dustin both answered, and driver Chris Mack, he beat him by about, 10 minutes. So he was in there last month, and you get Dustin this month. But yeah, I stopped in at this place. I was actually in Texas, and as you'll find out soon, in the main topic here. This may have been the last time I was ever going to be in Texas in a truck. So I thought, you know what, maybe I ought to stop in, someplace along the way that I've never tried before, or maybe someplace that I have tried. My first thought was a place called Giant Burger. I'm going to probably put that in as its own Trucker Grub segment one of these days. But I thought about stopping in there, and I thought, no, let's try something new. And Dustin suggested this, and lo and behold, he said there was 8 locations in Texas, and there are. And I was just going to happen to be driving by one. And hey, Dustin mentioned multiple locations, so let me go ahead and list those out. There's one in Italy, Texas, Alvarado, Tyler, which is the one where Dustin stopped, Midlothian, Longview, Texas, which he mentioned, Balch Springs, Nash, and the one I stopped at was in Henrietta, which is on 287. Oh gosh, where is that? It's about 20 miles south of Wichita Falls on 287. It's at the intersection of 148. You can't miss it if you go by there. And there was truck parking at that one too, so my guess is, like Dustin said, there's truck parking in all of them. So anyway, I went in, and as much as it hurt me, I spent $14 on a meal. That's what you get for 2 meats and 2 sides. And I think they had like $16 options. You can get like a pound of meat if you want to. They do serve the regular barbecue sauce and spicy, and that's served kind of on the side. You kind of dip that off yourself. So have it with or without. I will have to say that this was really good barbecue. Like he said, it was not the best barbecue I've ever had. I honestly couldn't say where that was, but I know I've had better barbecue, but it was still pretty dang good, I gotta say. And I also will mention that actually my favorite thing I got on the plate was banana pudding. Now, banana pudding's banana pudding, right? Well, not this stuff. I mentioned this in the Slack group, and some of the guys were grossing out saying, man, don't be messing with the banana pudding. Banana pudding's just banana pudding. But you know what? They had little slivers of real strawberry in this banana pudding, and it was not overpowering by any stretch of the imagination. It was just like you get one little sliver in each spoonful, and it was just perfect. I mean, if I was to stop back in, it would probably be, I would probably get a little side container of the banana pudding. Meat was good, but I would go back for that banana pudding. So anyway, I highly recommend that. And another thing he mentioned was that these reminded him of a Stuckey's. Well, guess what? The one I went into is a Stuckey's. So maybe they're having a comeback. Maybe they're having a renaissance. Who knows? But it is very reminiscent of the Stuckey's we visited when we were kids. Like he said, lots of different varieties of beef jerky, and they have, homemade fudge there and stuff like that. It's just personally, I don't understand this aspect of it. They have the Texas Best Smokehouse in there, and then right next door is a Steak and Shake. Now, I love Steak and Shake, but I don't understand why you go to Steak and Shake if you got a Texas Best Smokehouse right beside you. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Anyway. Another thing he mentioned were the bathrooms. 5-star rated bathrooms. I thought, yeah, okay, he must have just caught it at a good time. Well, guess what? When I went in there, I totally see what he means. These things were spotless. I mean, unbelievably spotless. There was an older guy in there cleaning them up as I was in there, and I commented on him, and, he thanked me for it. And I said, man, these are the nicest truck stop restrooms I've ever seen. And he said, well, they should be. He said, this company spends a lot of money on it, keeping them clean. So, man, they were just spotless. I'm like him. I kind of wish I had seen what the showers were, but, too cheap again, alas. So anyway, Dustin, thanks for this excellent review. I would highly recommend the Texas Best Smokehouse if you all get near one of these locations. Again, that website is texasbestsmokehouse.com. Uh-oh, looks like it's officially too late to win a Trucker Dump t-shirt if you haven't already done the Trucker Dump listener survey. I did get a few more in on this. I think I have 40 total, and I'm going to need some help to pick a winner, right? I can't do this myself. That would be bias in some way. How do you know I'm not just picking some favorite person of mine, right? Okay, well, what can I do here? 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 What can I do here?
Hold on, I'm calling someone. Hello?
What?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, hey, dork, how's it going?
Good.
Just so you know, I'm recording you right now. So anything you can will be held against you in a court of law, okay?
Okay.
I need your help on a podcast or something.
What?
Just for the listeners out there, this is my nephew Joel, and I need his help picking a number. I need you to pick a number. I gave away a Trucker Dump t-shirt for people who filled out my listener survey, and I need you to pick a number between 1 and 40.
27?
27. Okay. Well, I'll have to go in there and look and see who that is, but I just wanted to get an unbiased opinion. You were not expecting this phone call, right?
No.
How's your voice hanging up there, Joel? Are you okay?
Shut up.
All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there I am being a cruel uncle. That's what I do. That's how I roll. Thanks to Joel for helping me out with that and being a good sport like he always is. I just can't resist. You know, he's in that time of his life when his voice is cracking, and he's my last nephew that's going through that, so I just have to take advantage of it while I can. Ain't that right, Joel? Anyway. All right, so like I said, we had 40. He chose number 27. You know, unfortunately, I realized I was trying to keep this survey anonymous as I could, so I didn't want to gather a bunch of useless information on you, but a name might have been handy, maybe a first name, but I didn't think to do that ahead of time. So anyway, I am just going to read the first few letters of the email. I don't want to give away your whole email address because then everybody would know it, right? And that's not cool of me, so I don't know how else to do this. So anyway, the winner, if the first few letters of your email start with FFEMT, you're the winner. Okay. So anyway, first, thank you for filling out this survey. Thank you for everybody who entered. I appreciate it. And I will email you and we'll work this out. They'll have an opportunity to go over to TeePublic and choose a t-shirt. There's a couple different designs, and actually I'm thinking about a logo change, so they may want to wait for the new logo. Who knows? Either way, I'm happy to do this for FFEMT, and you know the rest of your email address. So look for an email soon. It'll be from truckerdump@gmail.com. And for anybody who hasn't filled out that reader or listener survey, well, it's still up there. You just don't get a chance to win a t-shirt anymore. I know there's no motivation anymore, but I would still appreciate it if you went over and filled this out. It would really help the show out. Appreciate it. All right. Well, that was a lot more fun than I thought it would be, considering it's coming from a guy who doesn't like to spend money on things. Let's say we get on with the main topic. You know, one thing that hasn't been fun is, well, the last month or so. I'll just let the blog post explain it. I give you the emotions of changing truck driving jobs. I haven't felt this way since 1997. My emotions are all over the map more than the 18-wheeler I drive. Joy, fear, doubt, anticipation, and perhaps most of all, uncertainty. So what's so significant about both 1997 and February of 2019? Both are major shifts in my work history. 97 was when the evil overlord, that's my wife and ex-co-driver for you new people, we both started driving a truck for a living in 97. Not only was this a profound shift in the type of job I was doing, but it was also a major lifestyle change for us. And now I'm facing that again as I'm getting ready to change truck driving jobs. But wait, you ask, how is switching from one truck driving job to another truck driving job such a big deal? Well, for all I know, maybe it won't be. That's part of the uncertainty I was talking about. Changing to truck driving jobs isn't a new thing for me. While I'm not a job hopper by any means, I'm also no stranger to switching trucking companies. I've worked for 6 different carriers over my 21-year career. Yeah, I realize that's not a lot, especially compared to how often truck drivers job hop nowadays. So what makes this current job change so different and so scary? As I mentioned before, the Evil Overlord and I were a team operation for 9 years of my career. The entire time we pulled dry vans for large carriers. Now one might think that going from a team operation to a solo driver was a huge change, but I had no anxiety about it whatsoever. First, an over-the-road, or OTR, dry van driver job is an over-the-road dry van driver job. There's subtle differences, but not much. Even more important was the fact that I knew my marriage to the evil wench was strong enough to survive being apart 3 to 4 weeks at a time. And proof of that is that I can call her an evil wench, and not only am I still married, but I haven't been murdered in my sleep yet. I also knew that the only thing that was really going to change about my job was that I'd be sleeping a lot better in a truck that wasn't bouncing down I-95. Well, that, and I wouldn't have to listen to her nagging me to slow to a crawl on perfectly fine snow-covered roads. Even today, if I'm on the phone with her and I mention that it's snowing, she tells me to slow down. She thinks she knows me so well. Hammer down. So what are these differences between my current job and the new one that's so scary? Well, first, there's more home time. That's not particularly scary, right? Then there's the fact that I'm going to be making less money. Well, initially anyway. Then there's the type of runs I'm doing. There's the kind of truck I'm driving. There's my food situation's going to change big time. So is my sleeping situation. And I'm going to be working for a union. Now I'll explain more about each of these as I run through the list of emotions I've been going through. Everyone grab your mood rings and let's get moving. First up is joy. When I first saw this job advertised, I jumped for joy. It looked like it was the shining gold trophy I've been waiting on for what seemed like an eternity. The job that would finally get me away from having to be away from home for 2 to 4 weeks at a time, and even more importantly, do so without such a massive pay cut that I'd have to buy my clothes at rummage sales for the rest of my life. Ultimately, my goal is to be home every night, and this new company provides a transition to that eventually. But for now, this is a nice stopgap. You see, I'll still be out on the road all week, but I'll be home every weekend. And this isn't one of those trucker weekends that really means you'll get home for 34 hours on a Tuesday. Nope, this is home every Friday night or Saturday morning, and I'll leave back out again Sunday night or Monday morning. Naturally, there's going to be times when the weekend will be shorter, but for the most part, I'll get a full 48 hours or more off each weekend. Hallelujah! 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 Now, for years, I've seen plenty of other jobs blip onto my radar screen, but none of them could even come close to matching this home time or the money I'm making as an over-the-road driver. Most of the more local jobs I've seen would have had me taking a 30 to 50% pay cut. Literally. Now, as I've mentioned here many times before, I know you almost always have to take a pay cut when you're home more often. I get that. And that's why I waited patiently until an opportunity like this arose. Then came the anticipation. Like I said, I was very patient waiting for this job. From the time I called about it the first time to the time I was hired was probably about a year. I thought this was the right job, but jumping on it right away would destroy all our plans. Now, if you're a regular listener, you'll know that the Evil Overlord is in school right now. Our plan has been for me to stay out here on the road long enough to get her through school, no matter how long it takes. Once she has a better paying job, then I'll be able to quit driving over the road and take the inevitable pay cut to work local. Well, this job is a slight pay cut the first year, so I waited. I called the guy who'd be my local terminal manager every few months just to keep in touch. I asked a different set of questions each time, and we chatted about the job and the job market in general. When would be the best time to apply? When is your busy time of the year? And how does this home every weekend thing work in real life? Every time this job came up in my email, I'd text the Evil Overlord, "The job is up again." We'd talk about it, but each time we decided to stick with the original plan. Finally, after months of talking to the terminal manager and learning more about the pay package from both him and some of their drivers, the job popped up again and I sent the text message. This time she texted, "Go ahead and apply. If I have to, I'll get a part-time job while I'm in school to make ends meet." Cool. Now, the main reason we decided to make the jump earlier than expected is because this new company quoted a higher annual pay than I was expecting. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a pay cut, but it's only a slight one for the first year. According to them, in the second year, I'll get a mileage pay bump, so I'll be making the same money I am now. Even better, by year 3, I'll be making more money than I am now. Not cents per mile, but overall. So you can see my joy had me jumping up and down like an Oprah audience member after she's won a lifetime subscription to Oprah Magazine. I filled out an online application on a Friday and got a text message on Monday requesting a phone interview. I set one up for the following day. I think my fears set in the day I was officially offered the job. Up until then, it had only been a dream and a hope that things would work out. But as soon as I was told the job was mine if I wanted it, my first thought was, oh crap, what have I done? The evil overlord and I had made this plan, and now we're deviating from it. I know how much money I make at my current job. I only know what I'm told at this new company. Is my eagerness to spend more time at home getting the best of me? Here's where the doubt kicked in. What if the pay wasn't as much as they claimed? You know, they wouldn't be the first trucking company in history to exaggerate their pay package, now would they? Could the evil overlord and I cinch up our money belts and make it work if the pay wasn't as much as advertised? Now believe me, I've done my due diligence here. I better have, since as Mark in the Trucker Dump Slack group said, you actually wrote the book on the subject. That book, by the way, is How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. Link in the show notes. I've talked to the terminal manager for a total of 2.5 or 3 hours over the course of 3 or 4 phone calls. I've talked to 8 of their drivers at length. And I spoke with the recruiter for another 45 minutes during the job interview and the road tester for another 30 minutes. They all backed up the advertised pay amount. Now, I'd expect that from the terminal manager and the recruiter, but the drivers backed it up too. Every driver I spoke with said I could actually make more than the stated amount in my first year if I was any kind of a decent driver. And you know, I like to think I am, or else they wouldn't have hired me, right? Even better, every driver I talked to said it was the best job they've ever had. They'd made more money and had more home time than any other driving job in their past. Sweet. Now, naturally, I was waiting for every single one of them to give me their name so I'd list them as a referral, but not one did. Now, I suppose that could be because they don't actually get referral bonus pay. I don't know. Either way, they weren't blowing diesel smoke up my caboose just to earn some extra cash, so that was comforting. Okay, let me take a side note here. I can hear some of you saying, hey man, you just said you wrote the book on how to find a great truck driving job. You even brag about your full list of questions offered in the book. How can you not know if they pay for driver referrals after speaking with them so much? Well, as I've said all along about the trucking company questionnaire, which you'll find in the book, How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job, or you can click on the link to get the list all by itself, you don't have to ask every question on the list. It's a long list. You only have to ask about the things you care about. Now, I've personally never recruited a driver before, so whether they have driver referral pay or not is inconsequential to me. So there, smarty pants. The fact is, everyone knows when you go through a job change that things can get tight financially as you get comfortable with the new job. The first week usually pays less while you're going through orientation and training. Then your first week out by yourself, you're often about as efficient as a snowplow on a smart car. So my biggest fear comes from the financial side of it. Unsurprising, since you all know I'm always in the running for the National Cheapskate of the Month award. Hard to believe I haven't won that yet. Oh well, just being nominated is an honor. So, back to my doubts. If I did the research on sites like payscale.com and talked to multiple drivers, a recruiter, and a manager, then why the doubt? Well, it boils down to this, because I'm leaving a known quantity for an unknown one. As you've heard throughout the years here on this podcast, I know my current company inside and out. I know the things I hate. I know the things I love. I know how their freight runs and where I might be able to find that nearly extinct species known as the empty trailer. I know every detail of their pay package and how much I'm going to make each year. I understand how the safety department will react to a log violation. Basically, I know how the system works and I know how to use it to my advantage. I know the world of an over-the-road dry van trucker. You know, it's like I had everything written down on a huge black chalkboard, and then this new job walked up with a big eraser and left nothing behind except smears of chalk dust. Wow, you know, I really dated myself just then with that metaphor, huh? So, what's so different about this LTL job? By the way, that stands for less than truckload. Why all the doubt and fear? You know, the biggest difference I'm facing is that I've always driven over the road, and my new job is LTL. This means that the freight lanes will be different since I'll be running primarily between their terminals. But how do they manage to get their drivers home every weekend without shorting us on miles? Every time I've headed home in the last 21 years, I've always known I was going to have a bad paycheck coming out of the house. This LTL company has been operating like this for years, so I'm sure they know what they're doing. But I don't. And that causes doubt. I also know I'll be making significantly less money per mile, but supposedly I'll only make slightly less money overall the first year because I'll also be paid hourly for all on-duty time. Now, other than detention pay after 1 hour as shipper or receiver, I've never dealt with hourly pay within the trucking industry. How does it work? How do they track your time? What counts as on-duty time? How do we track it to keep them honest? Again, I'm sure they know what they're doing, and I'll know soon enough. But until then, I'm clueless. And being clueless causes lots of fear and doubt in this dude. Especially after working in a job for so long where you're totally comfortable and totally in the know. Totally. Another big unknown is working for a union. The only other time I've had a union job was in my late 20s when I loaded trucks part-time for UPS. Talk about a difficult job. Kudos to everyone who does it. It's super fast-paced and there's no room for error, which, by the way, they will purposely test you by trying to send packages down that don't go on your truck. They say they do this for quality assurance purposes, but I'm pretty sure it's just to annoy me. But you know what? Hey, it's only one digit off on the zip code. It'll get there eventually, right? Now, back then, I didn't much like the union. I had to pay a union fee every week for no visual benefit. And it didn't help that my paychecks were already so small, which made the union dues a healthy percentage of my gross pay. But you know, now it's different. Now I still have to pay union dues, but now I can see the benefits in the form of company-paid health insurance. Yes, you heard that right. That still exists. Also, I can see that the union negotiated to get us paid for on-duty work. How many other carriers are doing that? Not many. All in all, this health insurance thing is one of the reasons why I can afford to make this jump earlier than I expected. Because the union dues I'll be paying are about $100 less per week than what I'm currently paying for health insurance. If you do the math, that makes up over $5,000 in pay differential right there. Yet still, I'm leery. Can the union be all it's cracked up to be? Am I comfortable letting a group of people I'll probably never meet make career decisions for me? And what's up with this process of bidding for jobs? What if they call for a strike? You know, that's some real fear stuff right there. Another fear I have is the equipment. Now, one of the questions I ask every driver I talk to was, what's the worst thing about this job? Without hesitation, every last one replied, crappy equipment. Great. Unanimously crappy equipment. Lovely. I'm just not used to this. You know, my current company prides itself on its fleet. Most of the trucks are less than 3 years old, and both tractors and trailers are well maintained. Y'all have heard me bellyache, whine, and moan when I have to sit in an inspection bay line for 2 hours, or take the truck in for a lube job every 2 weeks, and an oil change every month or so. It's a pain in my arse and a waste of my working hours, right? But it's also the reason I'm rarely broken down on the shoulder of an interstate or limping to the tire shop with a flat tire. It's also why the weigh stations don't even look at me twice, unless of course a DOT officer needs an easy inspection at the end of their shift. Yes, this has actually happened to me twice, and I know that because they told me that's why they pulled me in. So now I'm going to be driving older equipment that it's clearly not as well maintained as I'm accustomed to. Their drivers all say it's not as bad as it sounds because they all get paid a good hourly on-duty wage, which starts the second they call in the breakdown. But, again, in the realm of doubt, I'd like to note that 2 of the 8 drivers I've spoken to were broken down at the time. That's a little discomforting. But to be fair, neither of them seemed even remotely pissed or stressed by their situation. So maybe there is something to that hourly breakdown pay. Heck, at my current company, I don't get breakdown pay unless I'm shut down for 24 hours. 22 hours down? Sorry, that doesn't qualify. You know, another thing about this equipment is it's a day cab, which for you non-truckers is a truck without a bunk area behind the driver's seat. And, you know, I also may be driving multiple trucks. From what I've gathered, they'll try to leave me in the same truck, but if it breaks down or someone else needs it while you're at home, that sucker's going to vanish like Siegfried and Roy through a shiny red curtain over the top of it. Seriously, the driver who gave me my road test told me to always clean everything out of the truck on the weekends, and he stressed the word always, so that's going to absolutely suck. That might also mean that I'm having to drive trucks that smell like cigarette smoke. Now, in the past, I've always fought hard and long to get a smoke-free truck, and I didn't stop badgering them until I got one. I know I've talked about that on the podcast before. Now, while I am still going to pursue the cleanest smoke-free truck I can get, I'm not going to get all anal about it this time. My big argument has always been that I don't want to live in a smoky environment, which is what I'm doing in a sleeper cab. You're huffing those third-hand smoke cancer fumes 24/7 for weeks at a time. That's not the case in a day cab. Yes, I'll still be driving it for 11 hours per day, but I won't have to sleep in it throughout the week. And you know, the mattress is what really retains a lot of that smell. In this day cab, I got 2 seats. That's the only thing cloth in it. But you know, this leads me to another doubt. I'll be sleeping in hotel rooms every night since I don't have a bunk. First, let me just say that I don't understand the economics behind this decision. Yes, these day cabs I'll be driving are stripped down like Will Ferrell in every movie he's ever made. But are they saving so much money by not buying sleeper cabs that they can afford to pay for thousands of drivers to stay in hotels every night? Granted, we're not staying at the Marriott or anything, but still. But I digress. The hotel room does have me freaked out, though. At first I thought it sounded awesome. I'll get a shower every day, and I'll never have to worry about finding truck parking again. Those are 2 big positives. But then I realized that I've never really slept all that great in hotels. Will I get accustomed to it? Honestly, I'm going to miss the bunk in my sleeper. Heck, I spend more nights in it than I do in my king-size pillow top at home. Not to mention that lots of milestones in my life have happened in the sleeper of my trucks. Mainly, both of my books being written and the creation of this podcast. But the day cab causes other issues too. First, I'm used to having everything I'll ever need right behind me. My beloved freezer's going to have to stay at home because I refuse to leave a $600 fridge inside the truck every night, nor are those day cabs designed to accommodate it. And because I'm lazy and the thing weighs a ton, I'm not about to lug it inside every day either. Nor will I have my microwave oven. Maybe the hotel will have one, maybe not. Again, I'm uncertain, so I'm fearful. Right now with me, I've got extra winter supplies, 2 pair of shoes and a pair of boots, all my audio gear, my drone, extra clothes and bedding, and my own pillows. Everything has its place. No more. I'll be going the minimalist route from now on. My goal is to fit everything into one bag, food, clothes, and electronics. We'll see how that goes. Stay tuned. You know I'm going to be talking about this in future podcasts. Basically, as I'm spending my last few days inside this big truck, every time I stand up and walk into the bunk, I now think to myself, enjoy it while you can, bucko. Before too long, you won't even be able to stand up inside your truck, let alone take a few steps and fall into bed. So basically, this all comes down to fear, doubt, and uncertainty caused by the unknown, mixed in with anticipation of learning something new and having the joy of being home every weekend. Who knows? Maybe everything will be exactly as it was presented to me. But maybe it won't live up to the hype. Even then, maybe it'll still be a great job for me. Worst case scenario, my current bosses say they'll be glad to rehire me if things don't work out. You know, it's always good to have a safety net when you're about to take a leap, so there is that to be thankful for. In the end, I just have to trust that I've done everything I can to make a wise decision and then rear back and make that jump into the unknown. Christopher Columbus wasn't afraid to jump, and I shouldn't be either. After all, we do have that first name in common. Well, That, and we both look sexy in tights. One thing's for certain, I better put on my big boy tights and get ready to jump quick, because my last day with this company is Friday, and I'll be starting the new job on March 4th. So I guess there's just one word left to say. Geronimo! So there you have it. You know, I'm guessing probably most of you are thinking, what is Todd whining about? It sounds like that's a pretty good job. What a little crybaby. And you know, maybe that's going to be the case. But I know what most of you are really thinking is, how is this going to affect the podcast? Well, to be honest, I don't know. I anticipate, because I will have more time off, that I will be able to podcast more. Whether that's more trucker dumps or something else I have planned, we will just have to see about that. Honestly, I don't know what the schedule is going to be like, and I just don't know how much free time I'm going to have each and every day. My hope is that I will have, just a few extra hours each day sitting in a hotel room with free Wi-Fi, that I am vowing right here and now to everyone that all this free Wi-Fi is not going to go to Netflix binges every night. Okay. I am going to try, when I start this new job, to start a new routine, to get back into working out every single day, because I will get a shower every single day. And that was always my excuse before. I don't have that excuse anymore. So I will be doing that, and hopefully I will get into a new work schedule where I will just, come in at the end of the day, grab a quick shower, sit down at the computer, do a little bit of work towards the podcast or whatever, and maybe piece this up a little bit at a time so it will be easier for me to do, so I don't have to do it all at once. Because, I'm not getting a job that gets me home every weekend so I can spend every weekend podcasting. That was not my goal. I mean, I want to have more time for it, and I will have more time for it, hopefully, but that's not my whole goal, like the evil overlord said. She goes, are you going to still do the podcast when you're home? Because I don't want you on the computer the whole time you're home. And I'm like, no, I totally get it. But I laid it out for her this way, because I'm very clever. I said, think about it this way. I was only home like once every 3 weeks or so. So basically you had me for 3 days a month, basically. Now you're going to have me for 8 days a month. So even if I spend one full weekend at home working on the podcast, you still got me for an additional 3 weekends, right? That's logical, right? Well, that's how I laid it out to her, and she seemed to be, understanding of that. So look at me go. Anyway, like I said, we're just going to have to see how this new schedule works out. I, of course, will be reporting on the next podcast. I will just go ahead and announce it will be about my first couple of weeks at this job and how it's going and everything. I'm assume you knew that, but just announcing it in advance. Anyway, I think I hear a truck coming.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Hey, something funny happened the other day, and I wanted to pick your brain about it. Driver Chris Mack and I were talking on the phone, which we often do to waste each other's time while we're driving, and he had just listened to the January podcast and said, hey, where's the music in the trucker or in the feedback section? And I just started laughing. I was like, dude, that music hasn't been there for like a year. Which he was like, oh, I didn't realize it. And this was my point. Let me explain something. When I first started this, I thought, when the guy is backing into the dock before he says, hey, buddy, where you want this load of feedback? When the backup beeper is going, I used to put this little 3 to 5 second music clip in there. And my idea was that you as the listener would have fun trying to guess what that song was. And if you couldn't guess it, I was calling it the mystery feedback song. There was a link in the show notes. You could just click it and it would take you to iTunes and show you what song it was. Now, I did put an affiliate link in there, but I never planned that to make a lot of money. I didn't ever figure it would because iTunes affiliate's only like, 6 cents per song or something like that. I just did it because I had the affiliate link and the account. But anyway, that's beside the point. But I always wondered why nobody ever guessed the song. And the only one who ever actually did was driver Chris Mack. And that was years ago. He tried to guess the song and couldn't figure it out. So he asked me. And he never mentioned it again up until just like this past couple of weeks, and I thought, I wonder if anybody ever really noticed that music was there. And if they noticed that I removed it about a year ago. Like I said, nobody ever told me. And the reason I did it, this is kind of inside baseball here, podcasting stuff, but Spotify was announcing they were coming out with podcasting, and they flat out said, any copyrighted music in a podcast, and we're going to reject you. So, like I said, this was a 3 to 5 second clip, and I was hoping they didn't catch it, and they did let me in, so I guess I'm safe. They didn't catch it on my older episodes, and my newer episodes don't have any music in them whatsoever. So I was doing a little bit of extra work for no benefit whatsoever. So anyway, I just thought I would share that with you. Again, not that you care one little bit. But one thing I know you do care about is listener feedback. Okay, boy, do I feel bad about this one. Well, actually, a few of them here. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, these are kind of long lost. I don't know how they got lost, but these were from back in October of 2018. Hey, at least it wasn't worse. Believe me, it is worse. I actually went back and remember George had sent me 2 different audio feedbacks, and those were from 2015. And I'd never played them, but I did realize why. Both of his, well, they would lead up to their own podcast. So I was saving them to kind of like introduce a new podcast whenever I actually decided to cover that subject. So George, I haven't forgotten you. I still have them. So you'll hear them on the show eventually. It's just been 3 years. So anyway, Keith was one of these guys. Like I said, he sent this in October. And I don't know how, I just completely overlooked it. So anyway, he writes, Todd, I really enjoy your podcast and your sense of humor. Well, that's just weird, but okay. He says, just wanted to ask your opinion on the hourly pay debate for all drivers. What if the mileage pay stayed in place, but whenever you switched to on-duty, not driving, you went to hourly pay? Waiting to fuel, fueling, waiting in line to check into a shipper or receiver, loading and unloading, getting trailer inspections, etc. would all be hourly based on your cents per mile and top speed. Just a thought. All right, well, let me address that first, Keith. Of course, I'm all for hourly pay. If they want to pay us hourly, that's great. And with ELDs now, there's really no reason why they couldn't accept, they couldn't just track it that way. The problem is hardly anybody's doing it. And until one of the bigger companies starts doing it, nobody else is going to do it, because once one of the biggies does it, then everybody else is going to have to start kind of raising their game to match pay. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Like I said, with my new job, I'm going to be paid hourly pay for some things, but I don't. Again, like you said, how do we track that? I don't know. I mean, is it just when I go on duty? As a matter of fact, I know it isn't, because I talked to one driver and he said if we were in the hotel room for more than, I think he said if we were in there for more than 12 hours, they started paying us. And, naturally you're not on the log, or you're not doing anything on the electronic log for that. So, I don't know. They must have some other way of knowing. I just don't know how that is. But yeah, of course this would be cool. This would be totally awesome if we could get paid hourly. I'll take that any day, and I'm going to take it. So back to his email. He says, also on Anthony's question regarding not having any experience driving. Oh, Anthony, this was the guy who lived in a big city. He was 32 years old, I think, and he had a driver's license since he was 16, but he had never learned to drive. Just never learned, never had a reason to. He always took mass transit. And we went into a long thing about this. Man, I wish I could remember what podcast that was. If I wasn't pushing the deadline trying to get this out by the 28th, I would go and look that up. But sorry, I'm just going to have to deal with it. Anyway, Basically, what I was saying was that this Anthony guy should actually learn to drive a car before he gets in a truck. This was just my advice, just my experience, just my thoughts on the matter, because my thoughts were, if he gets in a truck, everything needs to be instinctual to him. You know, he needs to not have to check his lane 5 times like like 16-year-olds do when they're in their car. And if he's not comfortable in a car driving around, I found it really hard. I thought it would be really hard for him to learn to get comfortable in a truck right off the bat. But anyway, like I say, Keith's kind of disagreeing with me here. He says, regarding not having any experience driving, the military has taught thousands of young people who have never driven to drive all types of vehicles, including flying all types of aircraft with no prior experience. Some may even argue that the lack of experience is beneficial, as there are no bad habits to unlearn. Take care and keep on trucking. Well, I'm going to keep on trucking, Keith. I'm just going to do it with a different job. Anyway, that's a good point about the military. I mean, but really, most of those guys are probably, 18? They've at least driven a car for a couple of years when they enlist. And, as far as the truck driver training in there, I don't know. How does it work? That's a good question for you, the listener. Were you ever in the military? By chance, did you learn to drive truck in the military? If you did, how does that work? Is it kind of like our thing where we go to a little school for 2 to 3 weeks? Is it all on the job training? How do they train those drivers? Naturally, pilots are different, because nobody's flown a plane until you've flown a plane. So, and they get massive training, unlike truck drivers don't need that much. But I'd just be interested to see how that worked. So, let me know if you have been in the military and you know how that whole system works. Give me a shout, truckerdump@gmail.com, and let me know how that works. And he wrote me back one last time and said, "Hi, Todd. I didn't really expect a personal reply. Thought I'd get a canned thanks for the feedback email might show up, or a response from one of your staff." Yeah. Oh, my staff. Yeah, right. Anyway, he says, you don't need to read my email to the world unless you think it might be beneficial. Well, I think listener feedback is beneficial. He says, as far as the military training, I'm not served, so I'm not sure what the training regimen is. It was just a thought. You're probably right about a lot of the military drivers operating in wide open areas. Oh, yeah, I commented that most of the time I think these drivers are probably not in really tight locations, but I mean, who do I know? Maybe in Afghanistan everything is tight. I honestly don't know. He says he's been to several bases and military bases making deliveries, and he says they were kind of like small cities, so I guess they get some experience there. He said he started trucking in 1981, all local stuff, mostly building trades related. Stopped in 2001 after 14 months with them, and I changed jobs to a local one hauling frac sand. I say local, but I make a 570-mile round trip every work night. I consider that local too. If you're home every night, it doesn't matter how far out and back you go. If you're home every night, you're local. But he agrees with me and says you're right about the hourly pay. The big carriers would have to initiate it for it to become commonplace. Anyways, great to hear from you. Take care, be safe, and have a blessed day. Well, back at you, Keith. I appreciate your email. Next up, we're going to hear from Scott, this is the guy who goes by the name Bolt. He is not a trucker yet, at least not, I don't think so. No, he's in the Slack group, and he said not too long ago he was delaying that for a bit, I think. But anyway, he writes, "Hey, yo, buddy, here's some feedback." Oh, I see what he's doing there. "Hey, yo, buddy, here's some feedback." Nicely done, Scott. I just now caught that. He says, "I'm going to tackle a couple of things, so hopefully I don't confuse you." Well, I'm easily confused, so good luck with that. He says, in an earlier episode, you asked about a separate podcast for trucking news. I would agree with this idea. I realize you already work a 70-hour-week job and would not want that or the quality of the main podcast to suffer. Is there enough news out there to support a bi-weekly podcast just for news? Yeah, I think there is, and there probably would be if I reported on stuff like fuel prices and spot rates and things that I don't understand. But I really just kind of pick the stories that I'm interested and think maybe that's the ones you'll be interested too. But anyway, I haven't decided to do that yet. Most of my feedback just said keep the news as part of this podcast. We'll see in the future. Who knows? God knows what's going to happen with this crazy schedule I'm going to be on coming up soon. Anyway, he asks, could you add a new to trucking section? Each podcast you could talk briefly about hurdles and subjects that are relevant to guys like me that are interested in getting into the trucking industry. You know, Mark suggested that too. Mark's in the Slack group, and I had a talk with him one day on the phone about some of the things I could do to improve the podcast, and he suggested this too. I have considered it. I just haven't acted on it yet because the podcast is already long enough as is, and just another section is like, holy moly. Maybe I can tackle some of these topics in the main posts. I don't know. If you're new or if you're not in the industry yet and you have questions specifically about it, why don't you write in truckerdump@gmail.com, and maybe I can turn some of these questions into a podcast all of its own, so it's just a standalone podcast. That might be the way to do it instead of having a segment each month. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And he also wants to talk about trucker suicide. He says, many people have talked about the shortage of drivers and the things companies are doing to attract and retain drivers. From my research, many of the big companies are offering better pay, more home time options, and other things that take the driver in mind. Do you see this as something that could help with this issue? I understand the job is lonely, and that plays a big part in the issue. I also understand that once you get into it, it's hard to get out of it. The same thing goes in the construction industry. Once you get used to the money, it becomes very difficult to leave. That's all I have for now. I'm wanting to do a trucker grub for you. Maybe I'll get to it in the next few weeks. Well, Bolt, you haven't gotten to it, but I can't really say anything, I guess, because your email came in November and I'm just now getting to it. So take your time on that trucker grub. Anyway, regarding the suicide issue, I think most of it is just loneliness, and everybody knows depression is on the rise these days. Either it is on the rise or we are just being able to detect it better. Maybe people were depressed for decades and just nobody knew what it really was. But anyway, I think a lot of that could be solved by just getting drivers home more often, where they are more part of a social network, not like Facebook. I mean, a real social network, like, people coming over and, barbecuing some ribs, that kind of a thing. I don't know. I think just a lot of truckers just out here by themselves all the time. I think you're right that it's just really lonely and it can get really depressing. I'm very grateful for the guys in my Slack group, and the social media contacts I have there. If you want to enter those groups, by the way, the Trucker Dump Slack group is just email me at truckerdump@gmail.com and ask to join the group. And if you are an Apple-loving iPhone, iPad, Mac person and you're a trucker, send that email to theitruckers@gmail.com and join those groups. We got some new people in there lately. Our first woman joined. Her name is either Eileen or Eileen, I'm not sure. She's been kind of quiet in there. She's kind of lurking. Can't really blame her. She's the only lady in there. So if any of you female truckers out there would like to join the Trucker Dump Slack group and help pull her out of the shadows here. Maybe she just feels outnumbered. I don't know. We try to be nice in there and not too crude, but we are a bunch of dudes. So I don't know. Maybe we just scared her off. Anyway, come back, Eileen, please. Also, there's a guy named Edwin who joined. He's an owner-operator. Let's see, Jake Meadows. Who else? Doug. He goes by Missouri Miller Boy. And we've got another Todd in there who goes by the name Road Toad. Nice name. So anyway, join those groups, please. Speaking of new truckers, this really is a great resource for any of you new guys who are just out there, just getting started, and you're going to run across some things, and you're going to run into some situations where you wish you could talk to somebody and you've got nobody. And trust me, you don't want to do this on Facebook. If you put, if you make an error, if you back into somebody's mirror or something like that, you put it on Facebook, you're just going to get ridiculed. I'm sorry. That's the way Facebook is. Everybody's just mean over there. Well, not everybody, but there's a lot of trolls on Facebook. You know what? We've got none of that in Slack, and I wouldn't tolerate it anyway. If somebody turned into a troll in my Slack group, I'd kick them out faster than crap. Wait, is crap fast? No, I don't think it is. Well, it is when I do it. Anyway, weird tangent. So anyway, like I was saying, for you new drivers, this would be a great resource for you. I mean, you can just get in there pretty much 24 hours a day. Somebody is in there or is at least monitoring their notifications and can see it. And, it might be 3 a.m. and you think, I'm screwed. I'm in this situation. I don't know how to get out of it. And you put the message in Slack and we go, hey, I've been through that. We got a lot of experienced drivers in there who are really willing to help, and they're all super nice guys. So join the group. Again, that's truckerdump@gmail.com. Everybody is welcome in that group. You don't have to be a trucker. Preferably you listen to the podcast, but hey, I'll take whoever I can get. And bringing up the rear here, we've got an audio comment from Mark. Again, this bad boy was sent way back in November. Oh, well. Oh, Mark. Sorry, man. I've already mentioned Mark in the podcast, though. I think I mentioned him in the main topic and somewhere else in the podcast. Not sure where that was. But anyway, let's hear what Mark has to say.
Okay, Todd, we know you love your voice trucker feedback. I just wanted to share a quick note regarding episode 132, where you were talking about various things that are going on at the truck stops. And, as you know, from my comments in the Slack group, I'm taking it all in and experiencing parts of that, some of those situations that you mentioned. I spend a lot of time thinking about it, and the only things I can come up with is, first one is respect. I begin to think that as truck drivers, maybe we don't respect one another. Maybe we don't have respect for even ourselves and the profession that we're in. And that this leads to these confrontations and these things that we do at the truck stops to get each other mad or irritated. And I think that's why we have a hard time taking feedback from other truck drivers. Me personally, I rather hear from a guy that, hey, I made a mistake. If they come up to me in a respectful way, I wouldn't want someone coming swearing or screaming and yelling at me. But I'm a newbie in the sense of these parking lots and truck stops and stuff, and I'm sure I make mistakes. The other things too, I think getting paid by the mile.
Oh, hey, before we go too far, let me address what he's talking about here. This respect thing that he was talking about. Yeah, that is a huge problem. Our problem is we don't respect each other, and he was saying that we don't really respect ourselves. In a way, we don't. In a way, we respect ourselves almost too much, because so many people are so obsessed with themselves. They don't care about anyone else or what anybody else is going through. It's only what affects me. And that's so much of the problem, and like he was saying, you don't want people to approach you because you don't want to look bad. You don't want to, heaven forbid you're wrong about anything. I am like you, Mark. If somebody sees me doing something wrong and they call me out, fine. Please, like you say, don't come at me with flying fists, and don't come at me screaming, but point out my error. That's fine. I don't know if I mentioned this story before. I may have told this on the podcast, but one night I was coming out of the Pilot in Joplin, Missouri, which is out by exit 4. And I was going to go and park into the Petro. And so I got in the left-hand turning lane. I was going to go in there and try to find some parking late at night. And that truck stop, even though it's huge, usually it's packed, Well, I looked over and there's a little convenience store right across the road from the Petro there. And they had parking in there. There wasn't a lot of spots, but there was some left. And so I thought, oh, crap, I'm already in the left-hand lane. Now, what I should have done was wait for the light, turn left, go into Petro, turn around, come back out to the light, cross the road, and go park. But that's not what I did. What I did was, okay, I was careful. I was extremely careful. I kept looking at my mirror, my right-hand mirror, and I looked in it like 3 or 4 times, and I could see this car headlights, but they were way back. I mean, way back. And I waited, and I kept thinking, a lot of times these headlights look closer than they are. And so I waited and waited, and it just kept not getting that much closer. So I thought, okay, I'm taking it. And I cut across 2 lanes to go right into that truck stop. Well, I pulled around to line up for a spot, and a pickup truck pulls in right behind me, and he blocks the lane. It's where I can't turn around to get to him. And finally, I just kind of move a little bit and get around him. And he's still sitting there. And so as I'm backing into the spot, I stopped, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he started chewing me about cutting across the lane like that. And I just flat out admitted. I said, "You know what? You're right. I should have turned left. I should have gone into Petro. I should have come across. I shouldn't have cut across like that." I said, "I did look in my mirror. I waited. You saw how long I was sitting there. And you saw that I thought it was clear." I said, "You must have been coming pretty fast." And that's another thing too. You can diffuse these things just by admitting your guilt when you're wrong. It takes all their piss and vinegar out of them when you do that. It really does. He was hot, but as soon as I said, "I'm sorry, you were right," I said, "I've been driving for 20 years. I should know better. I apologize." And, after that, we had a decent conversation. And I did find out why he was really bent out of shape, because apparently he drives a wrecker in the area, and he had encountered an accident not too long ago there where a truck had done exactly that. And there were some teenagers cruising along at a pretty high rate of speed and went right underneath his truck, and they were killed instantly. And he had to clean up that mess, and everything. Well, he didn't have to clean up the mess. He cleaned up the metal portion of the mess, I guess. But, God, what an awful thing for him to have to witness. And I understood why he was so hot. I honestly still don't think he was that close to me. I don't think I was coming anywhere close to him. I just think he took it wrong because of the situation he was in. But again, like I said, just admit you're wrong if you're wrong, and the world will be a better place. Okay, sorry I hijacked this from you, Mark. What were you saying again? Oh yeah, mileage pay.
Sort of brings out the worst in people. That's the only other thing I can think of. It's always a rush to get in, get out, get scales, get fuel, drive to the last minute, because of the clock, and park wherever you can. Those are the 2 things that I keep on circling back to. And I appreciate the show, and thank you for all your knowledge that you guys share. Thank you.
Hey, I forgot to mention that Mark is not, he mentioned that this was all kind of new to him. He is not a new truck driver. He is a new truck driver on the mainland. He used to live in Hawaii and drove shorter trucks. And so this whole parking thing and everything is just, it's basically a new industry to him, because he's just not used to all of this, big rig stuff over here. I guess life is a bit easier over there when it comes to truck driving in Hawaii. Boy. That'd be an awful job, wouldn't it? Man, anyway, I was trying to figure out why the heck you want to move here. Anyway, you're talking about the mileage pay. Yeah, of course, that's part of it. It's like factory work. You get paid piecemeal, basically. You work hard, you get paid more. That's the way it works. And of course, a lot of people are going to blame e-logs for this. And again, I will say it's not the e-logs fault. It's the hours of service fault. All the e-logs are doing is supporting the hours of service that we currently have. So yeah, of course, all of this is us just being in a rush, us thinking we're important than everybody else, us thinking we're never wrong. And that is not good. So anyway, Mark, thanks for the audio comment. And Keith and Bolt, thanks for your feedback. I do have one more from back in that same time period that is from Nick, and I will be playing that in the next podcast because, well, I have something to say about it specifically. Man, what did I tell you? I told you this was going to be a long one. I think this is my longest podcast yet. Whew. So let's say I quit jabbering and let's get out of here. Well, I doubt you've got any feedback about me whining about my new job, but if you've got suggestions, questions, or feedback on past shows, send them off to truckerdump@gmail.com. Or head on over to abouttruckdriving.com to add a comment to the blog post. Just search for TD136. You'll also find everything else I do over there. And of course, all these links are in the show notes. One of those links is to iTunes, where I'd love it if you'd leave a review of the show. But feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to the show. Beggars can't be choosers, right? And yes, this counts as begging. But hey, I've droned on long enough. As always, thanks for listening. So until next time, drive safe, stay out of my way. Hey, this part is edited in. The U.S. Department of Transportation states that if conditions become sufficiently dangerous, the operation of the commercial motor vehicle shall be conditioned. If conditions become sufficiently dangerous, the operation of the commercial motor vehicle should not be I can't say that. Why can't I say that? So anyway, let me just get back to the news. Just wanted to break in here. As I mentioned before, the evil overlord and I were a teen operation. No, we were in our 20s. Nope. This is home every Friday night. Nope. This is home every Friday night or Saturday morning and leave back out again. Most of the more local jobs I've seen would have me taking a 30. Most of the more local job I've seen. God, I'm sucking today. I also know I'll be making significantly less money per mile, but supposedly I'll only make slightly less money overall the first year because I'll also be paid hourly for all on time. I also know I'll be making significantly less money per mile, but supposedly I also know I'll be making significantly less money per mile, but supposedly I'll only make slightly less money overall the first year because I'll also be paid. Why do I write such long sentences? What's wrong with me? So now I'm going to be driving older equipment that is clearly not as well tamed. So now I'm going to be driving older equipment that I'm So now I'm going to be driving older equipment that's clearly not as well tamed. What is tamed? That's not even a word. And I spoke with what? So my biggest fear comes from the financial. So my biggest fear comes from the financial.